What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Carlos. Behind me is a Jeep Wrangler that I cut in half, and this is part 2 of the Building a New Custom Flatbed series here on the channel. Let's get into it. So if you haven't already seen part 1, now would be a perfect time to go and do that. I'm gonna go ahead and link that down below. If I can figure out these little things up here as well, you'll see it up there. But this is where we're left after part 1. We are, however, gonna make a few changes today. So, like I said, so far this is where we are at. I went ahead and primed everything in just to keep it from rusting. I'm only working on this on the weekends. I do have a full-time job, so that takes up my weeks. But like I said, this is where we're at from last weekend. So the next step that we're looking at here is actually going to be boxing in the sides and the back of the flatbed. I want to have everything underneath all covered up and tucked away so that you're not seeing all of this mess. Now, of course, I have to go back and clean up all of these welds. I didn't grind anything down. I haven't done anything to it, so it doesn't look very pretty right now. I'm gonna go back, clean everything up today, and then we actually have to make one adjustment to the front side. So I was talking with people smarter than myself. They're asking what I was gonna do as far as closing in the bottom portion of the flatbed, and we realized that I've got an issue that's not gonna make that very easy, but I'm in a pretty good position to actually correct it. Let me show you guys. So if you're looking at the Jeep from behind, you can see that this rearmost riser I actually welded to the frame, and up front I welded that to the body mount. I wanna run one single piece of steel all the way down the side. I now have 2 different angles to compete with. So initially I thought I would just do this in 2 pieces, one piece coming to here, and then this back piece would be at a slightly different angle. However, there's a better way to do it, and that would simply be to cut this off of the body mount and move it a couple inches back to the frame. And that means I'm gonna have to cut from here and at the bottom, which is actually not a bad thing because I'd like to have a chance to redo these welds. So that's what we're gonna do first. This guy's coming off. He's gonna get shortened up just a little bit, kicked back, and he'll have an all new angle to match perfectly with the one in the rear. All right, so I believe we're gonna scratch that idea because I did go ahead and cut this out. I took an angle finder to it, and this angle is roughly about 50 degrees. This one here is about 60, but I'd have to bring it all the way back to here to get it to 50. And I don't want to put it back that far. So I think how I'm actually going to fix the issue here is just back to my original idea. So as I close this in, what's going to happen is there's going to be a pretty solid wheel arch that's going to come all the way up, and because I've got to clear the 40-inch tires, right here in the middle of the axle is probably going to be a good spot to put a slight bend in the material so that I can get the extra 10 degrees over here that I am missing from over here. So from the side, it's all going to be blacked out. I don't think you'll ever really be able to see it, but there is going to be 2 different angles going on the side of this covering. All right, friends, so I got that welded back together. Now I'm going to go and take the flap disc on the angle grinder and just make everything look pretty. I went ahead and bought a sheet of steel for the rear so I can get that done, get the taillights mounted and the license plate so that it's permanent. And then This piece is gonna be pretty fun. What I'm probably gonna have to do is weld tabs along here and even in the middle there so that I have places to bolt this to, because I want all of these under panels to be removable, because the last thing I want to have to do is cut these panels off to change the fuel pump, and who knows when or if I ever have to do that. But I'm not gonna make you guys watch me grinding these down forever, so let's go ahead and skip to them being done. All right, well, I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Those welds, I know they didn't look very good, but they are pretty solid all the way around. This thing is most definitely not going anywhere. They came out really good even after I cleaned them up. So super strong. I'm shaking the entire Jeep whenever I am shaking the frame. So from this point, I'm gonna go ahead and hit everything with a little bit more paint where I ground it down. And all right, so I went ahead and grabbed one sheet of steel. This was from Lowe's. It was like 50 bucks for just this, which is kind of crazy. I know that I probably should have just waited, gone to the steel yard, and got everything that I needed for all of it. But here we are. I just wanted to get this thing moving forward this weekend. I didn't have time to get over there before now. So what I'm gonna do is go ahead and use this sheet. I'm gonna cut it down to 13.5 inches tall. And what that's gonna do for me is give me exactly what I need to go here. Now I am gonna have to trim one side of it because this sheet does come a little bit long, but at least what I wanna do is get it cut and mount it into place so that I know where along the inside of the frame that I need to add tabs to this. So I am going to do that now, and we'll see what I come up with. So I'm still not 100% sure if I want to run like a regular JK rear bumper back here. I don't think I'm going to be doing that, but just because I'm not sure, what I'm going to do is just stop it straight across and have that cross member still be here. I may eventually end up getting rid of it or making changes, and who knows, I will probably be wasting 50 bucks by using this piece currently, but that's just kind of where I'm at. So we're gonna do this now. Fits pretty good. And actually, the more that I think about it, I don't really know that this has to be removable. Kind of thinking about just welding this on now. Does this need to be removable? Of course, I'll pull it a little tighter and close that gap at the top, but I don't really know that this rear needs to be removable, because in reality, there's nothing back here that I need to get a hold of. So I guess then if I don't make this removable, this panel doesn't need to be removed. The side panel is really the only thing that maybe does need to be removable. I don't know. Alright guys, so I have just made the decision that I'm going to weld this panel on here. I'm going to go ahead and grind down the uprights on both sides so that I can have a good place to weld, and I'll end up tacking it into place, and then we'll lay some beads. I got a feeling this stuff is going to be pretty hard to weld. Alright, so this is pretty thin sheet metal, so I'm just adding a bunch of little tacks, and then we'll eventually make it look pretty and finish weld it all. But I got one tack off just a little bit. It ended up pulling the sheet metal out of there. So I am going to grind that out, get that nice and close, butted up again, and we'll hit that again. So it's definitely getting too hot. So I did turn down the heat a little bit, but I think this steel is just going to be a little bit too thin to actually lay a really heavy bead on it. So I'm just doing a whole bunch of tack welds, spacing them out, giving it room to breathe, letting it cool off a little bit. I don't want it to warp. So yeah, we'll grind it all clean and it'll look good in the end, in theory, hopefully. So yeah, it's not the way I was thinking about doing it, and maybe bolting it would have been the move, but I'm believing that this is going to be actually pretty clean when it's all done. It's just going to take a little bit more time than I thought. All right, so I've put a lot of heat into this. I'm gonna let this cool off for a little bit, and I'm gonna see if I have enough material out of that $50 sheet to make these other two sides. All right guys, so I have about 2 million little tack welds, and I went ahead and added a brace down at the bottom. Chances are I'm probably gonna need a couple more. I am gonna do, I don't know from who yet, but a few different companies make a rear closeout. I forget what the heck they're called. But basically, just kind of a bumper delete for the JK. I'm probably going to use one of those and just kind of make this all sit flush. Hopefully I don't have to trim anything here in order to use that, but I'm going to go ahead and I'll probably order one of those before too long. I'm going to take, from this point, I'm going to take the flap disc and just kind of hit this line, see where else needs to be tacked, and do it all again. Alright, so my plan of all of the little tack welds didn't work at all because as soon as I started to grind it, none of them had actually penetrated on the actual bed, and so they were failing immediately. What it did do, however, is give me extra material to work with on here. So now I'm just going and laying a bunch of stitch welds all the way down, and those should actually do the job. So I'm going to let that cool off for a little bit, go in, hit all of the stitches in between, and then we'll grind it all smooth, and we should have a finished piece. All right, guys, it's getting cold, it's getting dark, and I've done just about all I can do today. I ran out of wire for the welder, but I got it on, and I went ahead and primed it in. It is definitely not good. I'm gonna go back and weld more. It's on there, it's not going anywhere, but none of this looks good. So again, as soon as I get more welding wire, which will be probably by next weekend, I will go ahead and I'll finish welding that entire back piece. And I'm also going to go ahead and get more steel, in which case I'm going to realize that I am going to have extra steel left over after buying the appropriate steel from the steel yard. That back piece is probably going to end up coming off anyways, but nevertheless, at least I have an idea of what I can do here. So with that said, that's going to be the end of today's video. I don't have any major updates, but that is what I was able to get done this weekend. I never promised to be, or I never called myself even, a fabricator or anything, or a welder or anything like that. So this is all new to me. I appreciate all of the help that I've gotten along the way from you guys. I've gotten a lot of really great comments. I've got just as many people who tell me that I should have paid somebody to do it. That's also probably true. 9 times out of 10 when I'm making a video like this, I know what I'm doing, and I'm able to bring it to you guys and show you guys step by step how to do it, and it's done the right way. This is something completely new to me. Yes, I could have paid someone to do it, and yeah, it would have probably came out really, really good. I would expect it to if I'm paying someone. But I wanted to learn this new skill. I wanted to see if I could fab up something for myself on my own Jeep. And because of that, it's going to take a little while, but I think when it's all said and done, I'm going to be really pleased with it. With that said, I appreciate you guys for watching. Thank you for leaving comments and helping me along the way as I'm kind of figuring this stuff out. Make sure, if you haven't already, hit the like button. That tells YouTube, or Rumble if you're watching on Rumble, that you like Jeep related content and custom content, and they're going to put more of that in front of you. Let's help the algorithm out a little bit to help me, to help you. Subscribe if you haven't already. I appreciate you guys once again, and I will see you in the next one. Update, apparently it got cold enough last night to pop a few of the welds down here. So I just used a big hammer and pulled it all off. We're gonna restart it with some thicker material.